All right. Well, happy Friday. Happy mid-October, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Or if you're on the other side of the world and it's 3 in the morning, we appreciate your dedication and question your sanity. But here we are, MVP Office Hours, Friday, October 9th. My name is Dale Ziegler, based in Kansas City. And by day, I'm a business analyst with 7 Summits. Along with me are my partners in crime, Squire Kirshner and Joy Shutters-Helbing. You want to say hi super quick?
Hi.
Hello, hello. You can follow us at a myriad of places. We got 4 Twitter handles for you to follow here if you haven't already started. MVP Office Hours, DZig11, Joy SH, and S Kirshner Custom, for those who didn't pick up that Easter egg. And then our universal across all MVP Office Hours happenings is mvpofficehours.info. On the right are some handy-dandy links to some Salesforce links on events all around the world, all around the country, and in your local area. Up top, we like to highlight the upcoming events and webinars, which also includes recorded webinars. So if there was one that you missed, like the release readiness a few weeks ago, since we are mid-release cycle, you can find those there, as well as upcoming ones to RSVP. And these are webinars all around the world. So not just in English, but in any language that they are being hosted in. It's a great resource there for additional learning. The community events, which are events that are put on by those of us in the community with some Salesforce oversight, but we take it upon ourselves to put them out there. If you didn't know what happened in 2020, that everything got canceled and moved to virtual, I want to live in your utopia to not have to worry about that. But most and all things are virtual now, but you can always get information on those events here. Band for Dreamin' looks like for now it's still a go in about a month and a half from now. And then we have some events coming up on the cycle for next year. So fingers crossed that they're able to happen in person. And being a member of one of those community event teams, we do keep virtual in the back of our minds. We hope for in person. We think about virtual, and like all of us in life, we're just playing it day by day. So be patient with us, but also a great source to get additional Salesforce information. And then down here, in case you want to get engaged in your local groups, great resources here. Trailblazercommunitygroups.com is the official site for all things user groups around the country and around the world. If you ever get the opportunity to travel, and again, 2020, it's also a great source that if you do get to travel and want to drop in on another group, you can find out what's going on around the country and around the world. Globally, it's not just us here in the United States. We do have an EMEA call as well as a Portuguese call. Both of those meet on the last Thursday of the month. And I'm looking really quick. I don't see Carlos here to do the spiel, but Portuguese is a really awesome one because you don't have to know Portuguese to join. Carlos Cicada is based in Tampa. He is trilingual, English, Portuguese, and Spanish, and he uses that as an opportunity to help our friends in Brazil and Portugal and other Portuguese-speaking countries. He does all the translating. He does a phenomenal job of it. All you have to do is show up with your willingness to help, and he does all the rest, all the heavy lifting. So great opportunity if you're able to join that. So I've already seen in the chat that we have a couple of first timers. Welcome. We are incredibly happy to have you. What the heck is this? Well, we normally, I will emphasize normally, meet on the first and third Friday of the month. September, we got off cycle because of Salesforce's release readiness videos, which then actually very easily butted into a 5 Friday October. So here we are on the 2nd of the 4th, and then in November, we'll get back on our normal cadence first and third. But first and third Fridays of the month normally. Next call is the 23rd. We are on at 2 Eastern, 1 Central, 12 Mountain. You know the rest. If you're Alaska, Hawaii, Pacific Coast, whatever. You can always register at this static link here. You can always get to the recordings from here, either in our community site, from our Twitter handle, or our YouTube page. We are recording. So with that, our disclaimer, if you cannot be recorded or are not comfortable being recorded or whatever, we're sad to see you go, but we usually have the recordings posted to the YouTube channel by this evening. So Definitely look for that. And we're going to share out the deck. We're going to share out links. We're going to share out all the things that we talked about. We hope you can stay with us live. We understand if you can't. Ground rules are everyone participates. You don't have to be an MVP to answer the questions. You can be an MVP to ask the questions. Anyone can answer. Anyone can ask. Anyone can provide a bad answer. I mean, perspective is sometimes more valuable than saying, I don't know, I'm riffing right now. But anyway, everyone is free to participate. My God, it's Friday. We just ask that if you're not speaking, please mute, Zoom etiquette, all the good things that we've been indoctrined into these last several months and years. If you want to ask a question, we have the chat here in Zoom. There's also a hand raising capability. And if there's dead air, just feel free to unmute, announce yourself and say, hey, I got a question. There are no stupid questions. There are no stupid answers. We're all just here to help each other. You can also share links and other resources there in the chat thread. And we take those after the call. We post those out as well so that they're just broadly distributed. And we do have the ability to share screens. We just ask that production environments be your absolute last option or not at all. Show us a sandbox, show us a dev environment, show us anything but production, please, because again, we are recording. The last thing that we want is sensitive information or proprietary or anything like that to end up on the interwebs, because apparently once it's on the interwebs, it doesn't get removed from the interwebs. That's what my kids told me. Who are our other MVPs in the room besides myself, Squire, and Joy? I think I saw Jake jump in. I see Susan. Very nice. Welcome, everybody. All right. So let's dive into it. Was this what we had posted?
Yeah,
Yes.
this is the one from the email, and I put it in the suggest community, but I thought we might want to touch it here too.
That's perfect. Let's dive into it. And Angela, I see you're on the call. If you want to unmute and give us a little bit more color to it, let's fire away.
Yes, thank you for looking at this question because it's been something I've been dealing with for a while. One of the things that we're trying to do is kind of like a big picture, kind of state of the state kind of reporting, where basically I'm looking at analytics for the previous 3 years. And it appears that as soon as something is completed, you can't really report on it ever being opened. So I'm having challenges with that. So basically I'm looking for analytics. I'm looking at it for analytics of tasks, on processes, even on the number of prospects that have hired us over certain amount of years, kind of getting like a chart showing percentage, just kind of addressing this to the owners of the company and showing them progress.
So the first would be the length of time that you're allowed to report on activities. And anyone, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand it's 12 months, right?
They go archived, which means 12 months from the point of closure. If
Right,
they stay open, they're always present. But once they get closed.
So you do have that limitation.
Well, so let me jump in there, but you can request an extension on that archive time up to 5 years. You have to write a business case, but they'll extend it.
And then you're looking to see like the difference between the created date and the close date for your tasks?
Sure, yeah, I mean, any kind of analytics. The tasks were just a very simplified version of my question. We just don't have the visual on the progress that we're making. There's no way to see. It's just like once it's gone, it's like off all your reports, or
that's an interesting comment. I mean, say more about that, because they don't disappear. They're there.
Well, yeah, we have an overlay, which might be part of the situation. We have an overlay from Consenter, which is just for our industry of financial services. And the overlay, basically, they have customized processes for us, which basically have different steps of the workflow. And then each of those creates a task. And once you get past that third step, you really can't report on it because it's completed. At least I haven't figured out how. So when I go and report my quote unquote state of the state, to the partners, I have very limited information. So basically, I feel like I have to take actual snapshots in time in order to put my data together. And I can't just let Salesforce run a report and give me the graphics and the details. I have to do it myself very manually. And I feel like there's got to be a better way to get those kind of analytics out than what I'm doing.
So Salesforce does have its own reporting snapshots that you could potentially leverage, but unfortunately, you can't go backwards with them. Like if you were to set it now, you could start running those snapshots going forward, but it won't take those snapshots retroactively for you and probably have them be in the format that you want. Is this a one-time effort, or is this something that you're wanting to implement regularly for in the future?
Yeah, they're annual meetings that I have to present to the partners.
Okay.
Basically, again, showing them progress. And it needs to be where I'm showing them progress from the year prior, and obviously the year prior to that. Like, we're trying to prove that Salesforce is helping us, that automation is improving the business and efficiency, stuff like that. They're wanting to know how many tasks did so-and-so have and how many were completed.
Mm-hmm.
Does this process or this overlay you reference, they're not removing them, they're actually creating and closing the activities? Like, it's not a situation where this implementation is getting rid of your data, right? They exist.
Right, yeah, they're not getting rid of it. It just doesn't seem to always be reportable.
And when you say that, are you using standard reports to go find them?
Yeah. I can report on them. I just can't really report on basically the stages within, they're not true stages, but the stages are tasks within the process, which that's, again, I know I'm kind of honing into that little part. I'm just big picture trying to get any kind of analytics. I didn't know if there were third-party programs. I didn't know what other people were doing in order to gather their own analytics of completions and things that are open and telling a story.
Yeah, and I know you're saying activities are just a piece of the whole, but they're a very special piece because they were built in their own special way that you can't do any kind of field history tracking on them to track the status of tasks. It's here's your task, here's what it looks like right now, and no real back history on it. Other records, any other object, you can do field history tracking report on that, but even then they put a cap on 18 to 24 months or whatever, unless you've archived the actual history, the field history objects. I think probably, unless somebody else knows anything more sophisticated, it's one of those, you could spend a ton of time in Excel once with having exported all your data out to get that starting layer, while thinking about, if I know I need to do this more in the future, how do we implement that now? I can't do it on my historical data in Salesforce, but I can do it going forward. And what can I do to that data in Excel or G Sheets or any other, if you're able to dump it into a BI tool or anything like that. But within Salesforce and that kind of thing, it's really this point going forward from a process standpoint, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a little bit going on there too, as far as tasks historically aren't a work product, they're a to-do. And so by extending that into a space where you're like, I want to know more about the life of a task, what you're really talking about is a case or an opportunity or something. And that's where that kind of lift comes from that you're referencing, Dale. Is the intentionality of this that you wouldn't change your process from task? You need to still think about those as work output?
Yeah, we wouldn't change that. I guess maybe I can give you another example. Like, when we have these processes with these multiple tasks, we want to know on average, how long has each process taken? Like, what's the duration? So our first client in January, it took us 30 days. The second was 20 days. Okay, why is I need like the statistics to show me what the average is and what should be expected. And then I need to be able to figure out, how do we put that into Salesforce so that we are alerted when it's over our average duration. I don't have anything looking at that. It's all so manual.
And so if I understand that more so these are still just activities running back to an opportunities success?
We
How's
don't
that?
have opportunities or leads. I know it's going to be a weird one. This overlay is odd, but they have basically created their own object called prospects, which is supposed to replicate opportunities.
That's okay. I mean, it's not as critical as just knowing that. I want to make sure I'm saying this correctly, but at the end of the day, your prospects like duration
Yeah.
is simply storing data based on the activities you're doing on that prospect. And then I guess I would ask, like, well, then do you need to track more information at the prospect level, not at the activity level, to tell you those numbers?
I think it'd probably be a mix of the both, depending upon what I was trying to report on,
Okay.
to be fair. I see where you're going. I like where you're going. But, and you know, what was suggested before is basically what I'm doing. I'm exporting a bunch of reports every couple of quarters and comparing it in Excel using a bunch of formulas. I would really like to see this be a lot less of my time manual and have some sort of report tell me this. Like I set up the parameters and then it just keeps logging it.
Hey,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, this is Susan. One thing I would suggest is contacting Salesforce and have that archived tasks. That could be why you're not seeing it on your reports. I think somebody else mentioned that as well. You can go back several years. So if you're looking to compare year over year, definitely start with so you can see it on the reports. And then there's not necessarily a concept of a completion date on a task because it's supposed to be done the due date, but you could set up some sort of close date on your tasks, and then you can use that in your formula to see, was it open 30 days? What's the average close date? You'd have to write some other formulas as well to calculate that, but it definitely can be done. I would not be doing this in Excel. I would do it in Salesforce. I mean, lots of people are doing similar stuff like this.
Yeah, so just to give you like a little bit more clarity, we have 30 different processes that have all sorts of different tasks in each one that basically, how would I even begin to say, okay, here's task one of process one, here's the last task of process one, and then go down the line for each additional process, and then try to get something to tell me if the duration is this.
Yeah. I think you just described really the pain point, though, is that unless you build some sort of data model to store those values and understand what they're representing, I think you're gonna kind of hit a brick wall anyway. 30 processes is a challenge, but even if you were, like, again, going back to the opportunity side, if all of these were tied to opportunity stage changes, you'd have that history. You could probably do something very similar with a process or a flow to say these opportunity or these activities on my prospect are triggering these dates or events, and start to store that within that prospect in order to be able to report it and show those metrics. It's not gonna just happen. Sorry to be very blunt, but like there's probably gonna have to be some sort of configuration on your side to help start storing those data points so that they represent the outcomes that you're trying to report on. Jake, you just went visible. Did you have something?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna echo what you're saying. I've done what you're actually talking about multiple times, and the only way you're going to be able to report on that data is if you flatten it all in that one object. So your prospect object there, and you can track stage changes. If you really want to, you can build fields to track the actual individual task. That seems probably overkill at that point, but it's something if you really need to get that granular, you could do things of that nature. But working with the tasks is always can be a challenge just because it's not a full object in Salesforce land. So you may just want to keep, you may want to get all that data and push all that to that prospect object and then report off of there. But like Square said, it's going to be something that's only going from this time forward. You're not getting that old data out of the system yet, but at least it's a start. So maybe you don't have to keep doing it. You have to do it next year, but you have eventually it'll catch up to itself. So you want it to keep reporting on things that are in the past.
Okay. I followed most of what you said. I don't know how I would do it in my own environment, but I took lots of notes, so I'll do some more Googling to make sense of some of that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Angela, I think this is going to be a really beneficial conversation. I copy and pasted your email into the MVP Office Hours Success Community. I think if we start making some posts and some collaboration there, we can help you along. Maybe we can't answer it in this 15-minute conversation, but we can keep bouncing ideas off of the group there.
Yeah, I don't want to take up any more time, and I do appreciate that. I appreciate everybody's comments, so that's great. Thanks, Square.
You bet.
All right, I think Todd is next.
All right. On the opportunity contact roles, we have a use case where we want to limit certain roles to one and only one. Let's just say limit to one contact. Works great when I'm editing one row at a time, but if I hit the Edit Contact Roles button, it pops up a pop-up window with a list view. And then my before save flow, I don't know when it's running, but the custom field on that record never gets updated to show there's a problem. As long as one already exists with that role, it will detect it. But if I update 2 on that list view window with the same role that we want to keep to one and only one, it goes ahead and saves them both with no error. And I'm trying to figure out what's the order of operation there, and is there any way to get around that other than removing the Edit Contact Roles button?
I'm looking forward to some feedback from the group because we have a similar-ish situation at Baird, and our answer was not great. So I'm hoping someone else has a better one.
So as someone who is not a developer, who is very well aware that this is a thing, but doesn't necessarily have to put it in practice every single day, naive question, does opportunity contact role and other second-class objects have any non-conformity to this?
I got nothing,
Actually,
but I'm looking.
I think
I guess-
my question for you is, when in your flow, how are you actually updating or creating records, or what exactly are you doing in that flow?
Todd, do you have something you want to share?
I can share it. I've actually
Okay.
set up my little environment so I don't have any issues with production.
Go for it.
Are you seeing my screen?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a verify like you do there, Dale. So let me show you real quick what happens. So here's what pops up. And I can go in and put in admin, my 2 admins. And it'll save those 2 just fine.
And you're only supposed to have one administrator per
We're only
opportunity?
supposed to have 1 administrator. But if I go back and do it again, or edit a row individually, it will throw the error.
So how are you throwing the error there? What's your process for that?
Oh, I apologize. I didn't have this pulled up.
No, that's fine. And I think it has to actually do something with how that the edit contact roles actually edits everything.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're gonna get around it.
So I've got a before save flow. I go out here and I grab the records, everything for that opti where it's not the one I'm trying to save,
Mm-hmm.
and the role is the same as the one I'm trying to save. And it just goes through. If it finds a record, it's setting a custom field on the opportunity contact being saved. It just sets a checkbox, and then there's a validation rule. If that checkbox is true, then throw the error.
Gotcha.
So the first thought I have is, why before save?
because I don't want them to save it at all if it's a duplicate. I want them to fix it before they save it.
Yeah, but you can still do that. The reason I'm saying that is because before save, they don't have any value.
Say that again. I don't understand that.
That's okay. So like if you think, and Jake, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like if this were a trigger and you're doing a before commit or before save trigger,
Okay.
the roles actually don't exist. It's basically saying find the things that are duplicates. Oh, there are none.
Oh, right, because it's not
If you
been
do an
committed.
after trigger, those records are waiting, trying to commit, and they actually exist, and you could do the compare. And I'm wondering if you're having the same issue.
That's what I'm guessing. Is
If you
it's
try to
basically
tap-
querying the database, but they haven't been committed to the database yet, so the query returns nothing.
Maybe, Jake, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, but I think the problem here is the get contact records there. That's definitely querying the active database. But the other thing is that when you're using the tool and submitting both of them at the same time, they're probably being submitted in unison, so they don't know about the other one because they're being created at the exact same time.
That's what I was trying to confirm. That's what I was assuming. They're being committed at the same time.
So it doesn't matter how much you do with your flow, because if you are allowing the creation of more than one role at the same time, I think it's going to basically create them in bulk, and the trigger before here is just going to look at each one individually, and the other one doesn't exist yet, so it's never going to find it.
Yep. Any suggestions on how to get around this? Worked great on account because you can't do a multi-edit.
What
It's
about
one-
after save, evaluating if there are dupes and just throwing an activity or a notification? Because then they will be there, and you could just verify that there is dupes versus
Right. Can you count the number of administrators and then throw an error if it's 2?
I can throw a message. How would I throw an error and stop them, though? That's the issue. Stopping them and making them fix it are different than just displaying a message and they say, whatever, and they move on.
Well, they won't be able to make any additional edits to the record until it's corrected.
That's true. They won't be into the relationship record, but they can still edit the contact and do all their other work. We've kind of been down this road before. If we don't stop them when they do it, it doesn't get fixed. I guess the only other thing I could do is notify an admin or help desk, and they could follow up with them.
I mean, can you report on contact roles?
Yes.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you have that flag there, you can also build a shame board.
This is true.
That is true.
You could also send a daily report to the administrators that are on those and be like, you two need to duke this out, or you 3 or you 5 or whoever.
Okay.
Who owns this opportunity?
OCR Thunderdome.
Yeah. Okay.
I
was kind of headed that way too. Go ahead and leave what I have in place because it works when they're only adding one at a time, not on the pop-up window, but then have a report to back it up and let someone know to follow up on it.
Or, find out a way to report on it or create a chatter post when there's 2 or something.
Okay.
Just to give you some color, so what we ended up having to do is on after save flow, that then if there is a duplicate, it writes back to a checkbox on the parent record, and then there's a component that is tied to that says if the checkbox is true, pop up this little text component window that says there's an error with the project team. And then they have to, they kind of, every time you open that record, you're like, oh, hey, someone's got to clean this up. And then as soon as they fix it, then it'll turn the checkbox off. So no one knows the checkbox exists, but that text component keeps lighting up on the on the record. And then Jake's point, you can run a shame report off of objects with bad teams.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of like a duplicate notification on the Opti. It would just pop a box or something that says.
Yep, kind of.
And what did you call that again, please?
What did we call it?
Yeah, no, just the component, or what did you say?
Oh yeah, so we created a rich text component that has conditional formatting, so that if the checkbox underneath the covers is true, then the component lights up. And so at the top of the page it goes, we have a problem. We use a lot of those for things like you're missing a document, you're missing a date, you're missing a whatever, and we use that for the team.
Okay, I'll give that a shot. Thank you very much.
All right, good luck. All
Thank
right,
you.
Let's see. Todd is all set. Connor?
Yeah, thanks guys for taking my question today. Like I mentioned in the chat, I had 2 questions, but I'd like to focus on number 1 that I had put in. I'm looking for a way, and I know that we can do this through event monitoring, but I'm looking for a way maybe to do this without purchasing that package, to try to pull a readable report that will show me when and if a user has exported a certain report. I know that's kind of a mouthful. I've tried doing this in the Workbench through pulling an SOQL query, but I have no experience with this and it's totally stumped me. So I'm not sure if you guys have any advice for me here.
The only go ahead.
I was just going to ask him, could you clarify why you think you have to buy something to have event monitoring?
So we spoke with one of our reps at Salesforce, I think it was earlier this week, and basically he said that, and I can pull the email up somewhere here, but he basically said that you need this certain package or this certain feature of Salesforce, I would say it's called, in order to like pull this information out in a easy to read way.
So I'm betting he's referencing Salesforce Shield.
He is, but there are like 3 buckets of Salesforce Shield that he was pointing us towards. And basically like we can take one of those legs, and I think one of them is event monitoring.
Well, so there's a piece of Shield that will automatically event monitor your report exports, but it doesn't require that to do that.
Okay.
It's just built in. So.
And do you know the way to do that without that?
Well, I'm hoping that Joy has a much better solution. So why don't you start?
No, I was just what I was going to say is the only time I've had access to that is when we actually, one of my former orgs had an employee leave, and then we paid a lot of money for every click that had been made in the past year, and we had to go through it line by line. It was pretty painful, and I don't have an answer for that. So
okay, so it's been a while since I've had to do this, but isn't report exports one of the things that if you turn on monitoring a specific user, will report exports come up in their audit trail? It doesn't give you from the basis of the report, but you're able to, I swear there was something that you were able to say, I want to follow this user because we know we're going to sever them or they're on job probation or whatever, but it's user focused, not report focused, but reports get captured in that activity by the user.
So I did find an unsolved question, which is not great, but it has some
from 13 years ago.
It's from 2012.
I probably looked at that same one.
Probably. I mean, it talks about event log files. There's a lot of stuff going on here. I don't have experience with that, but I do think it would be really useful to have. Because
so is that the question? Is does event log files track users exporting report data?
So, does anything free track that?
Well, free being relative. So
because Salesforce.
Because there is a way to do it if that answer is true, and I don't know the answer to that, and if someone else knows that that's a yes. I remember, boy, this is going to be 5 years ago that I did this. You can build an integration with a logging tool like logly.com or datadog.com. So you're going to send this information out of Salesforce. You're not going to do it in Salesforce. You're going to send your log files to a different service. Datadog.com or logly.com and push it all there. You're going to just push all your log files there. and view it in those tools. And those tools are best for analyzing all sorts of logging, statistics, and if that data is exportable, then you can analyze it in those tools.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you have to pay for those tools and how to use it, I can't tell you that. But you're not going to pay Salesforce for that. You're going to pay those tools for that.
Right. Right. And I think the answer to your original question about event log files is yes, that you can pull that out. But the problem is, and this also goes back to a comment that Dale made, one of the problems is that data, from what I understand, isn't available until 24 hours after the action. And we would want to be like, proactive about these types of things. And to Dale's point, I'm wondering about, the setup audit trails, if you can set that up and it's retroactive to, events that happened in the past. Because the real issue here is we ran into a situation where, we separated an employee and we're trying to figure out if and when they took certain data. So, that has already happened, obviously. So we need to hone in on, historical data for this more so than, moving forward. So.
Oh, that's difficult then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's precisely what I ran into at one of my former orgs, and we contacted Salesforce for that the click log essentially, and we got every click, and so it actually gave us and I had a full sandbox that hadn't been touched when we asked for that log, so that we were able to go into that sandbox and replicate the clicks, and then we could see the filters on the reports, we could see the export of the reports, we could see everything that was done, and they took it to court. So I don't know how to help you as far as like getting ahead of this, except for turning off your user's ability to export reports, and they would have to submit a request to an administrator or someone who has the export ability.
Yeah, we do have that set up now since we've, learned our lesson. But, going back into the past is where this gets difficult. So I appreciate you guys, thinking about this for me. I know that this is a very challenging question. So
it's a good one. Do you want to tackle your other question, or what do you need next?
Sure. Like if we have time, I don't want to take up too much time. And this should be a really quick one. Squire, you had mentioned using the standard report object to be able to pull that information out, but I'm not seeing that whenever I create a report.
So you'll have to create a custom report type to get to the report object.
A report of reports, a report type report.
Yeah.
Well, so Connor, I'm wondering, is your question, you're looking for reports that have a specific filter in them?
Correct. Yes, because we're making data model changes and we need to know which reports are pulling using certain filters so that we can go in and change them before release.
Okay. So the metadata stores the filter information if you can get to the metadata extract.
Okay, I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but I'll take a note on that.
So are you?
Go ahead, Dale. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, is anybody using anything like SFDX or any other kind of XML extraction tool?
I don't believe so. Those don't sound familiar to me.
Okay.
So it's actually easier to just do a metadata extract from like a workbench if you're just going to evaluate at one time. SFDX works great, but you have to then set all that up.
Yeah.
So that would be, if you just need to kind of get a feel for what's going on there, that would be my recommendation is just do a package extract from Workbench. And then there's the whole report section stores everything you need to know, the filters, the columns, the created bys, and the report types, and everything is in there.
Perfect.
So I'm gonna make use my power for evil, not good here, because this would absolutely benefit me with a client right now. So Squire, you want to walk us through how to do this in Workbench? And since it's recorded, I can go back and reference it. Oh yeah, as can Connor.
Well, that would be.
I think I would waste your time because it's been a while since I did it. We actually have an extract that happens automatically, but you should be Jake, you probably know off the top of your head, right?
No,
Man.
I haven't worked with Workbench in a long time because
Okay.
we have jobs that do it.
So the metadata types and components is what we're looking for, as far as I know. And you should be able to pull report. Is it called report in metadata?
Yeah.
And this is a dev org, by the way, so
Yeah.
it has next to nothing in it. But
and then let's see here. I'm trying to remember where this pulls from. I think I'm going to be wasting your time. Why don't I dig up the article and post it in the forum? But you should be able to do a metadata extract from Workbench of the object you're looking for to get an output that you can then play with.
Perfect. Really appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much.
I'll find it and post it right away.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, Diane's up to bat. Go ahead. Stuart? What?
Yeah, well, I have a tangent on this topic because looking forward looking for this type of issue, if anyone does have issues with, we have employees, we don't want them to leave, export data and then leave the office with our important data. There is Salesforce gives you ways around this, and one of them is setting up high assurance session security for sensitive actions, and you can set up report export as a sensitive action. And so when you set up that high assurance session security, you can identify things like setting up specific IP addresses or specific roles or specific things like MFA. Like you have to have these things set up on your person in order to do certain actions, and then you can set up exporting data or printing or those things as that action that is a sensitive action. And so while it doesn't help you past things, it will help you to set policies for future things to happen. And I want to let you know that Salesforce takes security and data privacy very seriously, and so they put these things into action for admins.
For sure. That's excellent, Stuart. Thank you. I'm going to look into that more.
And I can forward you the, unless I just
Post that link up for us, Stuart. We love it.
post the link. I
that'd be
just
great.
probably just
All right.
myself on it, but I'll post the link.
Diane, it's 1:46. So are you ready?
I am.
All right, let's have it.
So I'm wondering if there's any way that, first of all, I don't know flows very well at all. So let me just preference that. Can we call a screen flow based on a field update? Is there any way to do that? So what we're trying to do is there's a section on an opportunity called close plan, and it's got a number of fields in there. And the reps can update those fields, right? But by the time they hit stage 6, so that stage right before close, those fields have to be filled in. And we currently have a validation rule around that section. And the reason I don't like the validation rule is, one, because depending on where you update the stage, whether it's in the path or on the page, it acts differently. One throws an error at the top, another one throws an ugly error at the bottom. And then the other thing I don't like is if they fill in the field and then they save it, they'll get another error because they haven't filled in all the fields. So I was hoping that we could have this really nice flow that pops up and says, hey, all these fields need to be filled in. You're trying to move to stage 6, but I'm not finding a way to do that.
Are you using Path?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing that comes to me immediately is Squire's recent comment about using rich text also. But I mean, to, train your users along. But if someone has a better flow answer, please shut me up.
The short answer to the specific question is, unless things have changed, no, you cannot launch a screen flow from the field update, because the field update would require you to fire a process builder, and a process builder can't invoke a screen flow.
Okay.
That's the short answer to the specific question. However, Joy was getting into some much more native and user-friendly capabilities, as was Squire that that can get you what you want, very likely. But a screen flow is out for that.
I would recommend putting those fields, or you could create even a checkbox that says, is this field complete? Are these 6 fields completed? If they're all completed, checkbox. And then you have a validation rule on that checkbox that pops up, or you have that rich text like above the stage bar that would actually say, don't forget, you have to fill out these fields. And it's like nice and bold and nice and hard to miss, and go to section XYZ to complete these fields before you close this opportunity. And it'll show until that checkbox is cleared or that checkbox is checked, or whichever way you have it set up.
Where would I go to learn how to do that? I don't know how to do that, what you just talked about.
So there's you go to Squire's house. But the first thing you need is a checkbox field, right? And then the second thing you need is to make that checkbox field a formula, make it a checkbox formula field based on those 6 fields. And then Squire, do you want to jump in with how to knock that out?
I was just gonna say Trailhead. I guarantee there's a component visibility module that will take all of 5 minutes to walk through.
Okay.
You're saying exactly what I would have said if I was going to be less snarky, Joy.
Yeah. So there's that, and then the component visibility piece of it is on the Lightning page, the Opportunity Lightning page, and you can take down a couple notes on that, and then go seek out that rich text Lightning component visibility. And then a checkbox, formula field, and we can, narrow things down. Also, if you post that, like your specifics around that, like where you're getting stuck, if you start building out that formula checkbox and you can't make it work, the community is really good at helping you troubleshoot that.
Okay.
But, post it in the MVP office hours, and we can all certainly chime in and help you out with it. I have office hours with another client in 10 minutes, and if no one shows up, I'll work on it for a while. So
there's one other thing you could do using that same checkbox functionality. You could do an update action and put that on the page layout, and conditionally show that update action with those fields that you'd want updated if that formula isn't true. So you could actually expose those fields so they can actually edit the fields right then and there, so you can move it higher up in the page layout, draw attention to it, and then once they complete it, then you can remove it once that checkbox is no longer true or false, however you evaluate it.
I really like the automagical update those 6 fields button.
Yeah.
It's a great custom action. I did that for another client on their accounts.
Okay.
It totally slipped my mind. It's brilliant, actually. Because then it's they're okay, click this button and these 6 fields pop up, and that's all they have to fill out. It's boom, here they are. Boom, here they are.
Okay.
I live in Futureland. In Futureland, I'm going to use a series of in-app guidance and Lightning dynamic pages.
I was thinking about that, but this is Opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're coming out with the dynamic forms in the next, not this coming release, but the next release. They were talking about it anyway during the release readiness stuff that I was sitting in on. So
maybe.
Yeah.
That's a big maybe.
Fingers crossed.
But Futureland can be years away.
Yeah, exactly.
That I live in. But with a combination of those things, perhaps it would just know that you need to fill out that information.
Yeah, I don't want to pay for the paid in-app guidance. So
you don't. It's not. You can use in-app guidance.
What you would need, you wouldn't have to pay for.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You can
go to setup.
You can use the basic stuff for free.
Go to setup.
So something else.
I think I tried that, but
if I could ask really quick, so 2 questions. So one, anytime I hear someone say that you can do it multiple ways, my first question is why haven't you fixed that? If you have path, you should turn off editability of the field in the layout, so you have to change status via path.
yes, you're right. I think there's a reason why we have it in both places, though. There may be something else that it's the closed. It has something to do with the closed stage.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we have it on both. I can't remember, I'm sorry, off the top of my head what it was, because we went live with Lightning several months ago, but there was a reason why we had both. So, but I'm with you. I wish we could go one way or the other. But
Yeah,
that's
and I
great
and I
suggestion.
completely understand that it's easy for me to say that, and you've got a business and leadership that you have to please. So it's easy to say that. So I just wanted to ask. The other thing that I do want to offer, though, and I thought this was what Stuart was going to say, is what you can do is you could, as tedious and as silly as this is, but if you want to make it functional, you could have conditional actions, each one running a different flow based on status that pop up and down in the bar. So it's like, I need to go from A to B, you've got a B button. And when it goes to B, the B goes away and the C pops up, which runs a different flow, which requires certain fields and certain status changes. So you could leverage both of that. Now, that's a lot of work and a lot of overhead, but it would help you with the overall picture if you needed more than just a couple fields populated.
Okay. Great suggestions. Thank you so much for your help. Appreciate it.
All right, and I think the last question, Susan, did you have a question or was that an earlier comment that you had raised your hand for? Susan?
Uh-oh. Did we lose her? No, she's there.
She's there and she's not muted. I just don't know if she's listening to us. So maybe she stepped away from her computer, but that was a fun day.
Indeed,
I like
was.
it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm really excited. I want to go and work on that checkbox so I can like post something to Diane later.
And I put a couple links in the chat. We'll get them, try to get them into the success as well about how to extract with Workbench. So hopefully that'll help too.
The help one was being kind of funky with authentication and whatnot, so I'll play with that. But the Simply SFDC was that one I got into the deck, and I'll work on that bigger one.
Excellent.
They might. The other one, the one that actually worked, is probably a better link after all. So just go with that one.
The Simply SFDC.
Yeah, I think it's probably summarizing the same thing, but it's an easier link to post. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
And literally, Google gave me about 60 responses, so I bet you other people have solved the problem the same way.
Yeah, but how many of them reference Doug Ayers in there? If it references Doug Ayers, I'm rolling with that. Like, you don't need the other 59.
Go with that one.
Top, yeah.
Shout out to Doug. Thanks, Doug, for everything.
Thank you for everything again and 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 again.
Continually, right? So if no one has any other questions, I think we're going to have to wrap things up because I know Squire and Dale and I all have another call at 2, not together, unfortunately, but
that would be awesome if it was. Like, it's not.
Take the host. He'll take the next hour of questions.
Stuart's going to stay on. And
yeah, Stuart and Jake will cover it. We'll be good.
Yeah, my question is going to be, what's the next product to be renamed? Talk amongst yourselves.
Oh, Tableau CRM, poor Einstein.
It blew my brain last week.
Yeah, so. I saw that and I was also curious about how that worked out. But Tableau is so much more powerful.
It is a big name. So
than Einstein Analytics.
The conspiracy theorist in me thinks that maybe Salesforce just stopped making payments to the Einstein Foundation, which originally got them Einstein.com to redirect over to Salesforce.com/Einstein.
Well, they're using Einstein for different things, and Einstein Search is still very much alive
very powerful.
And being pushed. And so, I actually just turned it on for myself in a client org so I could play with it. But it's it's one of those things where I'm not really sure how that is, and I wonder about the data analytics. I really think that Einstein data analytics is really going to take a backseat to Tableau's power, because wow,
well, buy versus build.
True story.
They bought, Salesforce bought.
but we still have Marketing Cloud and Pardot, so you tell me. I don't know.
Marketing Pardot.
Yeah.
Pardot Cloud?
Pardot Cloud.
I don't know anything about anything.
And then, of course, is it Pardot, or Pardot?
Pardot?
Pardot. Anywho.
Pardot puppies. That's
Fun things to think about tonight.
Instead of literally anything else. Well, thank you, everybody. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. We will be back on the 23rd, and The success group is out there. You can catch us on email. You can find us on Twitter if you have questions in between. We love doing this. We appreciate all of you, and be well, be safe. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
You don't have to go back to work, but you can't stay here.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.